What's going on, you guys? We're on another episode of this. Although today in this episode, me and my host, we will not be breaking down the Shield. We're gonna be talking about the movie Scum, which is a UK classic, and also my first time watching it. As we discussed before, we broke it down a little bit. But yeah, it's also my first time watching it. Hey, I enjoyed it just as much as the next person. A grimy, it was, pretty much a grimy, realistic, just man, it was, a realistic movie, man, with just with a message too, just kind of shed light on the judicial system. Um, and just pretty much what goes on in like in those juvenile camps and stuff, man. But yeah, I know I'm a late bloomer on it, man. It came out in like 79 or 80, so I was
Well,
under a
well,
rock.
definitely. I mean, like it come out before both of us were even born. I mean, I wasn't born till '82. So, but it's definitely. I mean, I'll give you a bit of background for those who don't know. It's about the institution of the Borstal, which was the juvenile punishment system in the UK back then, which could punish anyone from like I think 14. I think it was the youngest age up till about 21, 22. And like I was, said to before, like, people over 18, uh, you know, between 18 and say 21, 22, who would be given the ultimatum of behaving themselves in a Borstal or going to a man's prison where they'd be eaten alive by the older inmates. And I think there's a lot of it's a lot of issues represented in the in this film. A lot of it's about, I mean, the ones that stuck out to me were about, all male institutions and the kind of mentality in there, dehumanization, isolation, fear of showing your weaknesses, as I think occurs a lot. I could definitely relate to that. And, you know, issues as well, where it's in the 70s, issues that are be more represented back then easily, like, I mean, this is a big racism issue that's represented in this film, I think, more honestly than it would be today. I think people depicting that in this day and age would tread around it a bit more lightly than before they were honest.
Yeah. Back then they were a little bit more blatant, it was kind of just yeah, nothing was sugarcoated, man. Shit was raw, and that was pretty much I don't know how you name that, but that was pretty much the theme of the movie right there, man. It was, and that's what I liked about it too, man. Just the raw, I think I told you even that, we don't want to give it out, we can give it away to the people that haven't seen it, but just that ending, it was just a natural, raw ending, that it didn't leave you with it wasn't sure everyday Hollywood hit, man, where the main character gets redemption, we get resolution, you know what I mean? There's a happy ending. I guess to shorten it up, man, there ain't no happy ending to that shit.
No, it's what we call a kitchen sink realism. Like it begins on a depressing, very realistic, very pedestrian, ordinary day, and it ends in kind of the same way. Like no one gets, like saying, no one gets their emancipation, no one gets their triumph. And
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for anyone who's hasn't seen it, go away, watch it, come back. The ending, of course, when all the guys get battered to pieces, thrown in their cells, shut on their own, is and then the credits roll to silence. I think all helps to reinforce the atmosphere that the film is just trying to give to us of the defeat that all those individuals must feel in institutions like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it pretty much was as real as, it was an inside look, to what a juvenile prison was, at least especially back then, you know, in the 80s, you know, where a lot more things were overlooked and you know, they were fucking, there was just different policies clearly, you know, and you know, like we saw at the end, man, you know, pretty much the neglect, you know, from the counselor, my man's name, Banks, I believe it was. Was it Banks? No, not Banks, not Banks. Yeah, was it Banks? I think it was Banks. The no, I don't even have him in my notes, but I'm going up. The Banks was the counselor, the guy who was pretty much he was torturing the kid or allowing shit to happen. You know, punching the kids. He let the kid get you know what happened to him in the greenhouse. Look, again, this is spoiler alert, y'all. But the movie came out in like 79 or 80, so you ain't caught it. Don't beat me. You know, if you ain't seen it at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And also another thing people should remember about older films that isn't included now is back then the older fashioned style of storytelling. You know, like there's in that scene, the famous greenhouse scene where the kid gets raped. You know, I know, you know, you notice this kind of nasty little smile on the warden's face as he's watching it. You know, he's with all the power to stop it, but he's kind of like taking a kind of perverted pleasure in watching it take place. You know, and there's also I noticed, you know, I remember we discussed it before now that you know, the protagonist Carlin, you know, when he has to meet with one of the senior officers, you know, I described the guy, you know, if anyone wants to take offense to it, I don't care, but you know, as your stereotypical pedophile, you know, is this fat guy with big thick glasses. You know?
yeah. We don't care. We offend. Yeah, not to offend the pedophiles out there. Not to offend y'all.
Yeah, sorry to pedophiles.
Yeah. Not to offend you weirdos out there, but you know, but yeah, no. Yeah, that. You know what? And honestly, I didn't even think it that far when I watched it because I just saw it as he was just that evil of a person. Like it wasn't a sexual thing. It was just him. He was just like, yeah, you know, I want everyone to get pretty much, you know, punished, you know, in the worst way. I don't care what it was, but you're right though, man. He might have. We don't know psychologically, you know, and he's the warden, like you said, so he has the power to terminate that on the spot. And you know, the fact that he didn't, and he actually stood there and watched, so he might have got pleasure from that shit. It wasn't like he looked and he said ha ha ha, and then he walked away. You know,
no, he seemed to me to have a smirk, you know, like he was taking pleasure in it. To me,
well, even if it was a smirk, it was like, damn, he sat there and like watched that whole thing play out.
Now, well, yeah, that in itself is just as bad. But I mean, and it's also like, you know, also the issue for me is like in those institutions, you know, you get guards and the authorities claim like a moral high ground over those they're guarding, which is a hypocrisy often in itself, because you know how much, you know, when you look at the techniques they're willing, you know, what they're willing to the ways in which they're willing to enforce it, you know, you're forced to ask yourself, you know, how much of this moral high ground do you really entitled to?
Yeah, man. You know, the other thing too I want to touch on was, you know, the whole terminology of the daddy of the wing, man. You know, we were talking about that earlier, the daddy of the wing, and you know, and then if you kind of like parallel that with, you know, with American culture, I guess you call it that, you know, American culture, you know, in the prison system, you know, it's called shot callers. It's actually a movie, I think, called Shot Callers, but it's been shot callers forever, and they might have different stuff, man. You know, I ain't never been to the penitentiary, but they have different, you know, the main one is the shot caller. So watching the film, you know, like I said before, daddy of the wing, I thought it was kind of like a derogatory, like they were kind of clowning them, like, you know, like who's your daddy, you know, the daddy. But that's, you know, come to find out that's what, you know, I didn't know that until you told me, like that's what the terminology is, you know, the daddy, you know.
And you've also got, like I was saying, you know, you've got the different types of prisoners as well, you know, like now if I reference here, a good book for anyone who wants to read it is Madness and Civilization, which is by a guy called Michel Foucault, Frenchman, who was a pretty questionable guy if you look into his background, but I won't go into that here. But no, like the character of Archer, who's almost like a political prisoner. He's, we've described him both as a troll before now, but he's determined to play the system with their own rules against them, and which backfires on him. I've noticed, because in that institution, the bottom line's always violence. And there's a powerful scene for me, was when everyone was being put into their cells individually, and Archer, I don't know if you remember, he challenges the guard, and he says, "I haven't had my hour's exercise today," and he's just like, "Fuck you, get in, Archer." And then he's like, "No, it's your rules. I'm entitled to my hour's exercise." And the guard just shoves him in, and he's got like a hot drink and it spills all over. He's like, "Fuck you, get in," And it shows you, like, for all the rules and regulations, these guards want to hide behind. Bottom line is always going to be violence in that environment. It's like Carlin, when he gets in there, they might, much of the guards are trying to punish him for what he's doing at first when he's taking control. Once he's took control, they're basically call him in to speak with the governor of the prison, and he's like, "Well, you're in a position of responsibility now, young man, so we're relying on you." They're basically like using him as a tool at that point. He becomes, they're like trying to bring him in to make him part of that system.
You talking about Carlin?
Yeah, they're trying to punish him when he's on the climb to take charge. They're trying to punish him for what he's doing, but once he's in charge, they're like, "No, man, you're working for us now."
Yeah.
Push their agenda through him.
Yeah, definitely. And bro, and I just thought of something too. Out here we it's kind of crazy. I think that movie came out in '78, and in America, especially as kids, man, I guess we might have been quoting the movie, like, even to this day, man, and didn't even know it, but we always, especially playing basketball, we're wrestling someone like, "No, who's your daddy? No, who's your daddy?" You know what I mean? Like this. Yeah. I don't know why. I mean, we don't even know where it came from. We just like, if we do it more so to like a close friend, a cousin, like, playing basketball, like block they shot, like, "Yeah, who's your daddy, man? Who's your daddy?" But like, we ain't really doing it now. We older, obviously, but definitely more so as kids, man. So it's kind of interesting, man. Like, if that's where that terminology came from, who's your daddy? Because I know that was huge, man, at least in American culture, man, like, and like competitive competition and shit like that.
And over here, like growing up, people, like lines from that film, "Where's your tool?" And you could prompt someone with that line, and they'd be like, "This fucking tool," or "I'm the daddy now," and then someone would go, "Next time I'll fucking kill you." Everyone like,
everyone knows it. That's fresh, bro. That's fresh, man. Like, man, that's why I was so interested in watching the movie, man, because it I've seen, again, man, I've seen so many American films, and everyone's, obviously everyone in America, we've pretty much all seen the same thing. So, when people finish, and remember I told you too that, not to steer too far off topic, man, but kind of like in Black American culture or whatever, as you call it, like, we have our own shit, man. So like when Friday first came out, like Friday wasn't as big as it's gotten right now. Like Friday was like a hood classic, man, that Ice Cube didn't even know it was gonna be that big. He was like, damn, he didn't know it was gonna be good. And it now people, people finish each other's sentences, man, the "bye Felicia," it's crazy, bro. Like it but we've done it for so long. I never really thought outside the box, like, damn, that shit's going on out in UK, or that shit is going out there in Russia, bro. Everyone has their own, it's it's a trip, bro. I don't know how to fucking articulate that. I'm fucking
Yeah,
dumb.
and it's like anything that takes off, you get that kind of, you get like the extra layer of, it emerges authentically, and then you get like, like you probably get pissed off with like like you get like middle class, we probably get middle class white guys getting braids in their hair, like, and trying to, endorse black culture, and you're like, oh man, that's so
Yeah,
fucking cringe. Like the same time, like, you're saying to me like about watching movies like Snatch and stuff like that, like movies like Scum would have come out years ago. By the time there's a lot of the actors in Snatch and movies like it, they're like what we would call over here a mockney, yeah. But they're like middle class, money drama school boys, yeah.
bro.
They,
Yeah, my bad, man. This car is kind of he was kind of close too, man. So I was kind of like making sure he didn't hit my shit. But no, it took me a while to catch on. Yeah, so you out here, bro. We got all kinds of names from, man. We call them wiggers.
yeah, I've heard that one. Yeah,
You got a wigger. You got oh man, damn, what's the other one, man? Yeah, man. But I know what you're talking about. And they're normally, matter of fact, I tell you. I tell you, who's a grandmaster wigger, bro. Your boy, it's Forrest Gump, man. What's his name? Tom Hanks' son. There we go.
oh, I don't know who that is, but yeah, but I mean, we've got no. There's one. Funny enough, we were talking about celebrities getting exposed as pedophiles. There was one in this country, Tim Westwood, who's like he's like the most middle class white guy you've ever met. And he was a hip hop DJ on the BBC radio. And, and he's trying to, you can see loads of footage of him of when he's like 19, 20, going, hello, sir, and then he's trying to, be down with all these guys smoking, these black guys smoking reefers or whatever. And
yeah,
and you're like, oh my God, that's cringy. Yeah. But yeah, like I said,
oh, shit. My phone fell. My bad, bro. My phone fell.
That's cool, that's all right.
Yeah, my fault, man. We have to edit that out, man. No, it's cringy. But yeah, man, it's like, yeah, you get that, man, like a lot of middle, dude, hey, it's a trip, man. You'll even get that. It's not just white kids, man. You get black kids too as well. Because you got what happens is, they come, you might have some cats that come from born and raised in Northridge or Beverly Hills. You heard of Beverly Hills?
Yeah. Where they're not, they're like the true hip hop culture is meant to come from poverty and deprivation or whatever, and they're
I said Beverly Hills. I know people probably out there laughing, but no, the black Beverly Hills would be Baldwin Hills. There's Baldwin Hills. I don't know if you heard of Baldwin Hills, but it's another rich area, in LA. But it just, there's just more, it's more of a culture, black area. At least it's always been. But it's, good area, fucking $1 million homes, just But anyway, you may have someone that comes from Baldwin Hills and like now he's out here and he's trying to kick it with so and so, and he comes from a 2-parent household and he gets everything he needs, but
and if he's in trouble, if he's short that month, he rings mummy and daddy and gets bailed out.
Yeah, mom and daddy gotta help. That's why I couldn't be a rapper, bro, because I had shit, man. Like I was getting help from my mama too much, man, and getting my story wouldn't have made sense. I would have been straight in line, But bro, hey, fake it till you make it, man. And those guys got millions off of doing that shit. So hey, kudos to them, But in the end, it is kind of cringy when you kind of find out, like, damn, bro, like, especially somebody who's really going through it,
People who've authentically endured the real thing, and people who've authentically come through it and made, something of themselves. Then you got someone who's just faked it.
Yeah, man. So it's just wild, man. But yeah, going back to the film though, let's see, I'd put the let me see. Yeah, man, it was pretty much, like we mentioned, I was kind of questioning. I crossed it out of my notes, but Carlin being our essentially being the antagonist, or I'm sorry, the protagonist, kind of our hero, so to speak. At least that's the direction I thought it was going in, and kind of quickly converting to our antagonist, we're probably like pretty much like, damn, Carlin, like, stop. You know what I mean? Like, bro. Well, it wasn't like that. It wasn't stop. I never once said stop, but it was just like, damn, Carlin, you a cold motherfucker, man. You kind of cold-hearted. I didn't really expect that.
And something that never occurred to me until I was refreshing my notes this evening was about how he does begin, much like Archer is. Archer's trying to steer clear of the violence, and which is Carlin is when he first enters the place. He's trying to see, but the violence is an inevitability. Like you're gonna receive it, and you're more than likely gonna have to dish it out too. And because Archer's playing the system and saying, no, the rules entitle me to this. I'm entitled to, I can do this. I can I can complain. I can issue this form. He's trying to play it like that. He's doing it his way. Carlin comes in and says, I'm going to keep my head down. I'm going to behave myself. I'm just going to do the remainder of my time. But lo and behold, someone comes in, they come along and try and push him around and bully him, and he's like, I can be stripped of my dignity. I can stay here from the remainder of my time, stripped of my dignity and let my situation get worse and worse, or I can stand up for myself and risk prolonging my sentence,
Yeah, and that's pretty much that's where a lot of the realism came from, because that's how that shit is, at least that's how I would imagine it to be. People, there's guys in there who just, and I say guys, men, in prison. I'm talking prison. Who just want to do their time. They don't want to get caught up in selling shit. They don't want to. But the thing that's so cold about prison is that a lot of that shit, they don't have a choice. They don't. There is no option. It's either that or they get fucked with. It sounds good, like, hey man, I don't want no problems. I'm just here to, all right, matter of fact, I this shit I do know about, because I had some bullshit I had to deal with, but it was man, it was a little 1 week, a little 1 week stay, man, like, and I'm just watching this bullshit go down. And one of the things they had was like a non-affiliate Friday, and it's pretty much like, if you're not from anywhere, I don't want any problems. Okay, good. So we want you, I don't want any problems, to fight this other, I don't want to have any problems guy. They call it non-affiliates, they're not from anywhere.
Like you're fighting for their entertainment kind of thing.
Fighting for the entertainment. So you fight for, and then of course, if you don't want to do that, then now, they're on you, now they're all fighting you. So that's literally how that goes down. Like, there's pretty much no sugarcoating that. Thankfully, I didn't have to be a part of that shit, man. I don't know how I managed to squeeze. My dorm was like a low. I was there for fucking suspended license, bro. And like, if they found that out, that would have been a different issue. But all I'm getting at though, bro, is like with Carlin, man. Like he basically didn't really stand a chance as far as him thinking, I don't want any problems, I could kind of talk my way out of this. It's either like you said, he had to stand up for himself, which he did. And bro, what for one, I need to, but I need to stop talking about Carlin like he was like a victim, man. Like, remember I told you after watching it, I saw him as like the sleeping bear. They just poked the sleeping bear. And look, to y'all who haven't seen it, man, maybe that's to put a fire in you to see it, man. That's the best way to describe it, man. The movie is, it's pretty much why you don't fuck with the quiet one, man. Poking a sleeping bear, layman's terms, but that's the thing I love most about the movie. Carlin, we see the transformation in Carlin.
Yeah, his willingness to be left alone and stay out of it and not challenge the power structure, and then but when he does take over, I remember mentioning it before now, like I noticed that he starts to pick on Archer a little bit, which I said, like, I felt, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing for them to put that in the film because it's realistic, but he's like, he makes him He
It
starts to
wasn't.
pick on Archer, you know, like, do you remember? He makes him eat the sausage. Yeah,
Oh, that was Archer. Yeah. I was
he's
gonna
like,
say it wasn't Archer. I was gonna say I don't think it was Archer, but it was because he made him eat the sausage. And
yeah.
yeah. That's what I'm saying though, bro.
And he makes
That's
him
what
do it. He makes him do it in front of everyone as well. More importantly, to like make a spectacle of it and say, like, you know, I own this fight. I control this guy. You know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. They hit that switch in Carlin's head, man, and that's what I mean. He wasn't no victim, man. That's what was so interesting about the character.
But I found it a bit depressing because when he first gets there, they've like got a connection and they get along, and but like I'm saying, at that point, he's like saying, "I'm not your fucking friend. I'm your boss, and you'll do as I tell you." You know.
But again, it speaks kind of volumes, which what we were saying goes hand in hand with what we were saying about the kids being institutionalized, and here you got a kid who really didn't want, he didn't want any problems, you know what I mean? But what did the institution do? It caused him to, I don't want to word that. It basically caused him to go back to the old version of himself. Like there was no getting better. He had to go become the old version and stay there. He just said, hey, this is how I gotta survive. So, no one's getting any breaks, and so yeah, bro, it kind of was messed up watching him eat that sausage, but I kind of understood it because I understood, who he was becoming. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't that Carlin that was getting beat up in his bed. Yeah.
And it also shows us how those sort of places destroy like like saying, there's a group there that seem to have a friendship before, and then it's like, no, you can't have any real friends in a place like that, because you may be called upon to, you see what I mean? And then sort of institutions destroy genuine human connection and
bro, next thing you know, you're getting involved in some shit. So, man.
You might be getting along with someone that day, and then the next day you're like, well, I need to, fuck that guy over to make an example to everyone else that,
So the movie was on point, man. The movie was definitely on point. Definitely, you guys, we'll put it in the description too, and maybe like a link, where you guys can go check it out, peep it out, because it's actually right on YouTube too. You guys check it out on YouTube, yeah, it's not something that you got to go purchase or go out.
No, it's available for free, which is great. But a scene that stuck with me as well, like when all the guys they need to have that therapy session. Well, I say therapy; it's not very therapeutic for them, but they have to sit with that matron in a meeting room and they have like a talking therapy. And I found that was a good scene because, like, I found like her character was like a very unfeeling. Like she was typical of them type of people that she hides behind that role. She hides behind, when the guy Meekin, he says, she says, "Oh, I'm here to help you. I'm this, I'm that. What can I do? So let me know. What can I do to, meet you halfway and all this or whatever she says." And Meekin says, "Well, how about calling us by our first names, And she's like, straight away she's backtracking. Oh no, the policy that says the rules, the rules of this, like it's like, well, hang on a minute, he's you've asked, he's told you, but she's not straight away. She's like, absolutely not, no. You see, it's like, when you ring, it's like the sort of thing. I bet when you ring for a doctor's appointment or something, and you'll get some snooty bitch on the phone who's like, the doctor is it, and you're like, can I have whatever or this or that, and the doctor he's in surgery or he's in practice or something like that, and you're like, I've been to that surgery, he's in the next fucking room.
Yeah.
They're hiding behind all this terminology, and you're like, all you need to do is like, knock on the door and and ask, but they won't. They want to maintain, they want to keep, they want to hide behind that role.
Yeah. That Yeah, bro, I didn't really like. I thought she was an evil bitch too, man. Like I didn't really get any nurturing vibes, you know. And that was the other thing too, man. There wasn't really any nurturing vibes from any of the staff members, man. Like they all
Yeah.
seemed there wasn't what do you call it? There wasn't like an outlet, maybe you may. It seemed like maybe that's as close as it got was the lady during the therapy session. You know, she was
Mm.
hiding behind that role, but she didn't mean it because it was just a role to her. You know what I mean?
It's
Like
like a
she
lot of things you get in jobs, you know, like it's like a box ticking exercise, you know, like it, you know, everyone's handed something or everyone's got to tick something or sign something to say. But when you're doing, when, you know, in practice every day, you know, it's contradicted. It's, you know, it doesn't count for anything, you know, because one guy tries to walk out at one point and she's like, where are you going? You can't leave. You've got to attend this session. It's part of your, you know, being here, you know?
yeah. He's like, fuck that, man. This is some bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. I'm getting, you know, it's like you can see his mentality is like, well, to me, it's like I'm getting nothing out of it. You're not helping me. Why the, you know, I might as well just go and get some sleep in my cell or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, yeah, overall, man, and like I said, as far as the ending too, you know, going back to the ending, um, I was telling you earlier, I didn't feel like it was too much, a whole lot of resolution, you know, towards the end, like I wasn't feeling the end, but um, and I kind of still partially feel like that as far as like I just wanted to be more, but I understand it because more, like I told you, that's just I don't know,
Mm.
maybe it's just you know the Hollywood mentality in me, man. But you know, we wanted to see, you know, some redemption, you know, a little bit more.
Yeah, hope maybe.
But that's what makes the movie a classic, and I totally get it. Like, you know, that's if
Mm.
they would have did all that, showed Carlin getting revenge, and you know, the
Mm.
staff members getting taken out, I don't think it would have been the classic. You know, it wouldn't have been where it was at. So, um,
And even for how tough he is, or the fact he might be in charge among the prisoners, doesn't do. You notice he's still black and blue, beaten to a pulp, and thrown in his cell, just like
yeah,
everyone else. You know, forever in
no,
charge he is in that prison. You know,
yeah,
at that point, he's as equal as anyone else.
yeah. Yeah, so that was yeah, that was a huge factor. Um see what else did I have too. I had
Hmm. It doesn't, you know, because I think when we watch a movie, we try and a lot of people try and relate to a character. I suppose I do, you know, we all do, and you like to think, yeah, I want to be that guy, you know. But what good's that if you look at that guy and then you know, at the end of it, he's just beaten like everyone else and thrown, tossed aside, you know. Doesn't it's not
yeah,
like saying it's no comfort.
yeah, you should bro, yeah, you should really watch The Experiment.
Mm.
Shouting that one out too, man. We're gonna break that down at some point later on, you know.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
But as endings go, another Ray Winstone film you might want to watch, which I won't say exactly how it ends, but it does begin and end in a similar manner as Nil by Mouth, which is a Ray Winstone film. I think I mentioned it before to you. Yeah, and that's it's like, you know, so it's very depressing, very kind of, uh, but yeah, you know, where Ray Winstone is a domestic abuser.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, wait, Ray Winston, that's the main character, right? Is that Carmen
Yes,
or
the
no
guy
no?
playing Carlin. He's much older. He's, you know, he's like, I don't know, 40-something years old by the time he's in that. But it's
Yeah.
directed by Gary Oldman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So I think it was his first film he directed. I
Oh
think.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
It's,
he
it's just really like a drama. It's not. There's no special effects, no car chases, no nothing. You know, it's it's well worth a look.
yeah, I gotta put that one in. What you said is new by the what? New by the
Neil,
mouth?
Neil, Neil by Mouth.
Yeah, new,
Neil
like I'm
Nil, as in, you know, zero. I
wait,
suppose. I
what?
suppose Neil Nil Neil.
Oh, Noon.
Neil. I'll message it to you. I suppose
Yeah,
we got soccer here, so when you nil, it means zero.
oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a medical term, like when someone's on a feeding tube or whatever, and they can't eat in hospital. You say they're nil by mouth.
Okay. Damn. That just means that's just that's probably a fucking crazy. Just that sounds like someone got fucked up in that movie.
Well, I won't spoil it, but you can watch it. But
Maybe, yeah, yeah. I'll definitely check that out. Put that on the list. Um, but and like we told you guys earlier, me and my host, man, we're gonna be pretty much, we're gonna be breaking down different movies, different films, from American to UK culture, man, and vice versa. I'm gonna check out, stuff that I haven't seen before because,
and vice versa.
yeah, vice versa. Yeah, and vice versa, man. Alex and myself, man, we're both movie heads. So, we'll have a list of movies for you guys in the comments too to, put your opinions down and, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. To put your opinions down in the comments about them films, that we're talking about. But yeah, man, definitely, Scum. I enjoyed it. I watch it again too. Shit, it was a dope classic, man.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I always like watching it again, and it's always good to like introduce someone to it because no matter who you introduce to, they're always a little bit shocked by it in their own way. That's always interesting.
Yeah, you take it lightly, man. That's what I like too, man. I like it, and when because I'm not a film of movies from the 70s. I don't care if it's American. I don't care where the movie's from. Like, there's a certain period of time that I'm open to it, bro. But it just there isn't too many movies from that time that's really, a whole bunch of them that caught my interest. So when I heard 1979, I'm like, all right, this is probably watered down a little bit, but it's just like, oh my gosh. No. This shit is this is not watered down at all.
It's neat. If anything, yeah, definitely.
Hey, I'm still in shock, man, off that shit, man. Like, whoa. Like, damn. Yeah, man. But hey, great film though. Great film.
Yeah, definitely.
And really, you know what? That's how a lot of films normally are, man. Like films that kind of cross that line, like we saw it in Pulp Fiction, the notorious scene, man, where the rape scene, with the boy, with the boss, when they're in the dungeon and stuff. Have you seen Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, I've seen Pulp Fiction, yeah.
Yeah, and again, that not the scene, but the movie ended up being, a notorious, it's a classic, it's a classic. And people even question, like, was that scene even necessary? Like, you could still had the movie without without the scene in it. But
yeah, I mean, granted, I think Tarantino probably done it a lot for shock value, but I think the context that it happens in that, without going too off topic, is because it does, the way it happens, they just knock behind a door, and in this place that they both stumble upon, they're keeping someone under the floor, and they take people prisoner, and there's this whole, they happen upon this place totally by accident, and there's this this world of depravity they just never occurred to them.
Yeah, you know what? Hey, I think oddly you needed that scene, bro. Like you couldn't have, because like you said, it was the shock value, man, and like that's the shock value. Like there was no other part of that movie, other than I think Marvin getting his head blown off, like there was no other, like, bro, that's as shocking as it can get. Like no one expected that, watching it for the first time. I'm talking about the the dungeon scene.
Yeah, and it's not totally unrealistic either. I mean, a little while it's only last year. I mean, there was a Metropolitan Police cop who was done for something like 70 counts of rape and sexual assault, And he was like, and some of the shit this guy had done was like, he actually had a woman he was keeping under the stairs in his house in a cage.
Yeah.
Shit like that, and you know, like tied up in his bedroom, like he like honestly, you watch the sentencing of it, like it's unbelievable. Like, you know, it's most like the judges were saying like this is the worst case I've ever heard. Like, you know, like they said she come back from hospital after having surgery, and he made a point of raping her deliberately after surgery.
You made her what?
He made a point of raping her deliberately after she comes out of hospital from surgery.
Damn. Yeah. That's
yeah. He's gone. He was sick. Like, yeah, and that. And he was like respected policeman like for years.
Yeah, man. It happens. It
He even joined the domestic abuse unit so he could groom people like victims of domestic abuse to lure them in.
Yeah, that's
That's the making. It's got the makings of a movie, definitely.
It's what, yeah, it does, Brand. It does. But yeah, I mean, yeah, but going back to Scum, though, man, it was I don't think I saw that scene coming either. But again, though, it kind of shows you though, just the realistic nature, man, of what happens in those, you know, it's not all fairy tale, man. And that's the thing I liked about it too, the most, man, you know, just the realism, man, you know, it was a real film. It was a movie. Clearly, it was a movie, man. But it was like, damn, this is like a documentary kind of too, man. Like a realistic look.
Yeah.
Ah, shit. I just yeah, man. We probably may have to cut it a little short, man. I just killed my car battery.
Oh, that's cool. And that's I mean, I'll probably better head off anyway because the sun's going to start coming up before long. You know?
Yeah. Damn, man, that's crazy. Well, you got to edit this last part out, man. Yeah, I'm about to have someone give me a jump here. Cause my battery. Let me see. I think I'm on 13%. Yeah. But no, what I was so, you know, we broken down Scum, you know, pretty much. Well, the surface of it, man, you know, we could go down, you know, cut it layer by layer too, you know, if you want. You know, just as far as just like, you know, I don't know, man, like this, the mentality, man, like, you know, we talked about the nurse, man, you know, and how I told you there was the other realistic factor is that there's no nurturing. There's no like pretty much no nurturing factor in that film. And that's pretty much how I'm sure it is. I've never been to juvie, but that's pretty much I imagine that's how juvie is, you know, that's why those kids are all fucked.
And there's also like, you know, when like you get those atmospheres where it's all guys, there's no one wants to say like, oh, you know, no one wants to display the slightest weakness, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like even that. I mean, you know, because I work in construction and everything, and even there, I noticed like, you know, something I've noticed over a long period of time is like, you know, a lot of the time most people don't know what they're doing, right? But they're never going to say, I don't know what I'm doing, right? Because, you know, the next guy might, you know, because everyone will be like, oh yeah, well I know more than this guy, so that's cool, you know. It's like it's a hierarchical thing, you know. No one wants to. When someone doesn't know, they never want to say I don't know. So you'd rather get, you know, a lot of guys would rather get in somewhere and fuck something up, and then get fired, than just say, oh, I'm not sure how to do that. Can you show me?
Yeah. True.
You know?
That pressure, man. That peer pressure we put on ourselves, man.
Yeah, it's like it's just pure bravado a lot of the time.
Yeah, or ego. Yeah. Fuck pressure is an ego or. Yeah, whatever you call it. Yeah, but like you said, bravado.
And in a predatory environment like that as well, you know, so you got someone who's, you know, potentially going to use it violently against you. You know, like I know a guy I worked with a guy who had been inside a few times, and he said, you know, if someone really pisses you off, he said I managed to get a few tiny little fragments of glass. He said, you hold on to them. He said, if someone really pisses you off, he said, you can sit there in your cell just like this, smashing them up into dust. He said, when you get the opportunity, you put it in their food. You know, you've got all day, every day to do fuck all. And there's the only refining, the only consistent thing is spite and nastiness. You know,
That's crazy. Shit. Yeah, man.
He said you get a few fragments of, like, you know, literally like little crumbs. He said, because the windows will be shatterproof. He said, but say you get a few crumbs. He said, you get something in your cell, bang it down. You get metal cups. He said, because you can't have like a china cup, because you can smash that and get a sharp edge to cut someone.
All right,
so you get a metal cup a lot of the time. He said, so you'll just crush it down into dust, put it in a container if you can get one, and then try and slip it in their food so they eat it and then cut themselves up inside.
Damn, bro, that's like, man, that's just some serial killer shit, man.
Well,
but
I suppose it's just as well. Probably not everyone's like that, but if you're inside for a long time and you get long-standing resentments that for people you can't get away from as well, I suppose that doesn't help.
No, you get a little bit of resentment. Resentment. That bro, I mean, I gotta ask these people for a jump while they're still here, man. And
yeah.
This car on the road. Yeah, man, we could I don't even you want me to call you in the morning, man, or we could
yeah, give us a ring tomorrow. We'll sort out what next recording session, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure, man.
All right, for sure. All right, thank you to everyone if you're watching.
Oh yeah, man. I thought you had cut it. Yeah, man. Thank you all too, man, for support, love, all that, man. Check us out, man. We're gonna be running back different. It's gonna be a different topic, man. Different show, you know. So just keep up with us, man.
Yeah, cool, man. All right. Well, I'll probably upload this in the morning. So I'll see you soon.
All right, late, man.
Cool, man. Bye.